back, there's virtually no minimum. You could put $1 a school year into your plan. You could put as much as $20,000 a year. So with a range this wide, if you're not maxing that plan out, the question usually becomes, what should I do to be successful? We recommend that people contribute between 10 and 20% of their income to their 403b plans. Reason being is we find that the people who do this throughout the bulk of their career will generally retire very successfully somewhere in these age ranges without worrying about reducing their standards of living in retirement.
Okay.
With that said, if for some reason one of these is not a reality, I always tell people, don't let that paralyze you. Do some sort of contribution, because obviously contributing something is better than no contributions. And your contributions are flexible. So once they're set up, they're not set in stone. They can change.
Okay.
Any questions there?
No.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to cover is what happens inside of these accounts. Once you're utilizing one, how does it function to create profit for you? So any kind of investment at all they really are tax loss. In and of themselves, they don't really do very much. Think of it like an empty bucket that will hold your investments. So here's your 403b empty bucket tax law. But inside of these tax laws, there are investments in here that make them function. And these investments are what's known as mutual funds. And there are two types of mutual funds at play inside of your account: stock mutual funds and bond mutual funds. Stocks are ownership in companies, and bonds are debts. Most people get the stock idea fairly easily. You have some money that comes out of your bank account, goes into your 403b, and then into a series of stock mutual funds. Those funds are going to own hundreds of different companies all over various stock markets. And by virtue of your money being in there, you would own a small portion of those underlying companies. With bonds or debts, that process of diversifying is the same. But instead of owning things, what's happening is you're loaning your money to a series of governments and corporations, and they're promising to pay you back with interest. So when you own a bond fund, you're acting a little bit more like the bank. Your stock investments are more aggressive. What this means is in any short period of time, they can have big upturns or big downturns. But over the long haul, they will typically give you a higher rate of return, usually a double-digit plus rate of return. Your bond investments are more even and steady. They do have down years as well as up years, but they don't fluctuate like stocks do. They also don't climb like stocks do. They might give you a 2 or 3% rate of return. Now, what we would typically do is figure out what a good mix of both of these is for someone. So there's a spectrum of investing. It starts at conservative, goes to aggressive, we've got moderate right in the middle, and then some hybrid categories in between. A moderate investor being right in the middle, they would put about half of their funds into each of these categories. The more towards aggressive someone leans, the more they would put into stocks. And the more towards conservative, the more they would put into bonds. Generally, a younger person starts more towards aggressive, and then they gravitate more towards a conservative portfolio as they get into their spending years. And that has to do with time. So if you have some working years ahead of you, time is on your side. And what I mean by this is if there's volatility in your stock and bond investments and your account value